Hello, friends. This episode is a little late, just a little bit, because of the depression. I'm not going to get into it, but let's just say things have been rough and we're just going to leave it at that. Because of all of that, I fell behind. So I posted a poll in the community tab on YouTube a while ago, asking you guys which movie I should talk about first. Of course, we'll talk about them all, but this movie won by a landslide. I'm sure you noticed the title, thumbnail, and poster on screen already. Oh yeah, we are finally talking about Immaculate. Pardon me while I quote myself. About getting tickets and seeing Immaculate in theaters, I said, I'm thinking I might have to rethink that Sydney Sweeney horror flick Immaculate because I saw a TikTok that said it was good. The things he brought up were things I like. He mentioned body horror, it's brutal, jaw-dropping, and there's a single take shot in there somewhere, and I am suddenly really interested. I remember seeing the trailer, it's spooky, but I thought it was funny. I just don't know how to take Sydney as an actress lately, but maybe this movie will change my mind. We'll see. Having seen the movie, I can say with my whole chest that this movie changed my mind about her acting. Again. Hey there, movie lovers. Welcome back. It's your movie buddy here, ready to talk about the latest movie I watched. Whether you're a longtime subscriber or follower or a new face, I am thrilled to have you here. If you're looking for all of the story details and what exactly happens in this movie, you're not going to find it here. What you can expect are my spoiler-free thoughts and opinions about the latest film I watched in theaters or maybe when I streamed at home. You can catch weekly releases dropping every Friday. Have a movie in mind that you want me to talk about? Hop into my DMs on Instagram, drop a comment on YouTube, or let me know on the podcast. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, follow on Spotify, and follow along on Instagram so you don't miss out on what I'm up to and what's coming up next. As always, any TikToks or articles I've mentioned in today's episode, as well as timestamps for triggers, will all be in this episode's description. With that all out of the way, grab your popcorn, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, and let's get into today's episode on Immaculate. An American nun embarks on a new journey when she joins a remote convent in the Italian countryside. However, her warm welcome quickly turns into a living nightmare when she discovers her new home harbors a sinister secret and unspeakable horrors. Let's talk about the crucial yet unsettling themes of female bodily autonomy and the systematic control over women's bodies. These are deeply disturbing modern issues that demand more outrage and heightened attention and discussion. I want to touch on them very briefly, mainly to avoid spoilers and honestly to maintain focus on the film, of course, but I think it's important to acknowledge the real-life significance they carry. Again, both of these themes are truly disturbing and horrific, in real life and in this movie. The film skillfully navigates these themes throughout, culminating in a powerful and blood-soaked character development that leaves a lasting impact long after the credits roll. I really love Cecilia's character development. I love to watch her journey from devout faith to a startling revelation of her own agency. There are so many layers here, and it is so compelling. Not only do I just love to see her journey from eager believer to a proactive force, but I really just love the ending. The groundwork laid for her character at the beginning of the movie, coupled with the consistent reinforcement of her convictions throughout, effectively set the stage for her profound development. Transitioning to the visual aspects of the film, Immaculate presents a stunning visual landscape that is bold, captivating, shocking, and gorgeous. Slasher Talk Horror on TikTok said that there's a lot of shots and scenes that end up giving this old Italian Renaissance oil painting vibe, and it's absolutely beautiful. I 100% agree. This vibe is only emphasized by that grainy texture throughout the film. This aesthetic choice adds a layer of depth and beauty to the storytelling, even in moments of darkness and gore. From start to finish, there's a range of visually striking moments, a visual variety that really contributes to the overall impact and visual interest. Leading up to the release of Madam Web back in February, I was talking about Sydney Sweeney's acting and how I thought she did a really good job in Euphoria. Then I watched Madam Web. Such a good time, am I right? Anyway, I remember saying that I was expecting so much more from her. I was so disappointed, but I just want to say right now that I knew she can act. I just don't know what she was doing in Madam Web. As Cecilia in Immaculate, she delivers an incredible performance. Now, whether you agree with people that have labeled her a scream queen or not, she flawlessly captures every aspect of the character, from the docile and devoted person we meet in the beginning to someone who realizes she needs to do anything to save herself. Truly outstanding. Obviously, Sydney Sweeney has reconvinced me that she can act, and she undoubtedly steals the spotlight, but the entire cast also deserves some recognition. Each actor and actress really immerse the audience deeper into the world of the film. No one does a bad job, and no one's performance pulls you out of the movie. Now, regarding the pacing, I saw some criticism about the first half feeling slow. I personally found the pacing to be fine. I think it might feel slow because nothing happens. A lot of quiet moments, but really it's all crucial for laying the groundwork for the plot, building the mystery, and establishing the tension. Honestly, the vibes, really. The beginning also serves to give us a better understanding of Cecilia's conviction and the dynamics between the characters, which all pay off so well as the story progresses. Moving on to the music. I love the score, and I love how it really envelops the audience in a sense of dread. Maybe it's the theater surround sound or the sound system we have at home, but the music really emphasizes those heart-dropping scenes. There are plenty of moments when the music hits you with a jump scare, and plenty of moments where the lack of music makes way for a jump scare. However, where the music truly shines, in my opinion, is in its ability to amplify that mystery and tension, drawing viewers further into the film. Now, let's wrap up with my final thoughts on the movie. We talked about quite a few things, but the real question remains, is it worth your time? Let's lay it all on the table. For anyone who hasn't had the chance to watch the movie and you're interested, I highly recommend giving it a watch. It's currently available to rent and stream on Amazon Prime Video, Apple TV, and YouTube Movies. However, please keep in mind that the film has intense moments and contains several triggering themes. Now, if you've been with me for a while talking about movies, then you might know that religious horror kind of freaks me out, and this was something that I was kind of worried about going into this movie. Surprisingly, Immaculate didn't incorporate some of the elements that I expected it would. As always, I looked into some negative reviews and I found plenty of the usual comments that the movie sucks and Sydney Sweeney is not an actress, which is totally fine, but we definitely did not watch the same movie. However, I did see a comment that I thought was interesting, saying that questions were left unanswered. There's no primary villain, no plot, no ending, and the movie wasn't scary. I am always gonna respect the fact that people interpret movies differently, and it's more than okay to have different opinions. However, these criticisms don't necessarily make Immaculate a bad movie. The audience brings their own perspective and expectation to the table. And sure, the film clearly didn't meet some viewers' criteria or their expectations, but it still offers an interesting and engaging experience for others. I will say that I can definitely understand the perspective of feeling that there were unanswered questions in the film. Personally, I tend to seek out answers within the information we're given, or I form my own interpretations based on narrative cues. I do realize that not everyone shares this approach, and maybe some people prefer a more straightforward narrative where everything is clearly explained and resolved. I would say if that's you, then you're probably going to feel the same, that there are unanswered questions. Something I haven't mentioned yet is the language barrier that Cecilia faces. As someone who only speaks English, I can totally relate to the kind of stress and anxiety of not being able to understand what's being said around me. That feeling compounded with Cecilia's circumstances in the film, it's just a little too much. Speaking of too much, we have to address the gore and triggers in this film. If you are sensitive to graphic content, I would not recommend watching this movie. I did not find it gory, but I also love blood and guts and all that good stuff. However, I can easily see how this movie can be too much for some viewers. Now, let's address the triggers, and there are quite a few, so please bear with me. There are depictions of on-screen animal death. For these scenes, it's multiple chickens and a crow flies into a window. Additionally, claustrophobia, someone is buried alive. Dead bodies, someone is burned alive. There is a scene of a graphic bone break, torture, abuse, attempted drowning, paranoia, and someone pulls off their fingernail. The film also touches on sensitive topics such as pregnancy, infanticide, and disturbing imagery involving a feti. I want to emphasize that a lot of the torture, distress, and abuse is inflicted upon a pregnant woman. If you are looking for more information on the triggers I mentioned, I will always suggest the website Does the Dog Die? I use it for animal death and SA, but it's got so much more information. It's crowdsourced and it covers a lot of triggers, so please check out that site if you want to read more. I do want to say that a lot of the triggers I mentioned are pretty explicit throughout, and I don't think you can really skip these moments and still understand the movie. So if anything I mentioned will trigger you or even make you uncomfortable, then please skip this movie. If you're still interested, then just make sure you're in a good headspace if you plan on watching. Have you had the chance to watch Immaculate yet? If you haven't watched the movie, what's holding you back? Not your cup of tea, not your genre, or is it any of the mentioned triggers? Because I know they're pretty intense and the movie itself is pretty intense. Whatever your reason, I'm curious to hear your thoughts after today's episode. And if you've already watched the movie, I want to know your take. What did you think about it? Share your thoughts, opinions, and reactions. I am all ears. Clearly, I really enjoyed Immaculate. I watched the movie a second time as I worked on this script, and there is so much tension, suspense, and horror. Not just horror, but the exclusive horrors faced by women or someone who is able to become pregnant. Immaculate is distressing and brutal, with an opening scene that really sets the tone for the entire movie, while also not preparing you enough for what lies ahead. I especially love the ending. It's shocking, captivating, and full of suspense. I held my breath, not only because it's incredibly intense, but if you've been here for a while, then you know how I feel about a single take shot, and tell me why this one felt like it was going on forever. It was extreme and extremely impressive. Now, if you're wondering about the scaries, I would say this movie isn't traditionally scary. It's more for the vibes. It's unsettling, disturbing, and honestly, that is actually pretty scary. The film creates an atmosphere of unease and dread that absolutely lingers after the credits roll. I'm not gonna lie, there are jump scares that are punctuated by audio and music cues, but the real magic, where this movie excels, is in the underlying sense of foreboding that really sticks with you. All right, movie fans, that wraps up another episode. If you're enjoying this episode on the podcast, a huge thank you for tuning in. For our YouTube viewers, you'll find a link to the podcast in the description below. And don't forget to give the video a thumbs up if you like it. As always, thanks a million for joining me today, friends. Your support means the world to me. And remember, the movie talk doesn't stop, so tune in every Friday for fresh episodes. Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, follow on Spotify for on-the-go listening, and join the fun over on Instagram for behind-the-scenes sneak peeks. The next movie I have tickets for is Star Wars Episode 1, and last week I watched The Mummy for its 25th anniversary, and I had a lot of fun. I don't want to hear anything about old movies being re-released in theaters. It's trending, and I am going. It is what it is. I will say, though, that there are a lot of movies coming out in the next few weeks, a lot of movies that have come out in the past few weeks that I do want to see, so I might exchange my tickets for a different movie. I'm not sure yet because I really do want to see Star Wars on the big screen again. It's also just a really good opportunity to catch up on YouTube, the podcast, and on Instagram. I am so far behind. Moving on to the updates, life is rough, but we just got to take it one day at a time. That said, I skipped posting for 3 weeks, which was very much needed, but absolutely not my intention. I mentioned that I posted a poll to the community tab, and Immaculate had 75% of the votes, followed by Monkey Man at 21% and Godzilla x Kong at 4%. So my tentative plan is, with the votes as they stand, is to post my thoughts on Monkey Man next, and then Godzilla x Kong. I'm gonna try to post my thoughts on both movies as well as everything I've watched recently, including Civil War and Abigail, in the next couple of weeks, the weeks I'm watching those re-releases, The Mummy and Star Wars. I am putting the podcast exclusive for stop motion on the back burner for now. I actually have a bunch of podcast exclusives lined up, and I will definitely be watching and sharing my thoughts as soon as I catch up and get some room to breathe, especially at my job. A huge thanks to everyone who has stuck around with me to the end of the video. Last time I shared my thoughts on Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. If you missed out on that episode, please be sure to catch that one on the podcast. And if you're on YouTube, you can click the top right corner of today's video. Your feedback is always appreciated, so don't hesitate to let me know your thoughts. As always, I am looking forward to you all joining me on YouTube, Instagram, and of course, the podcast. Don't forget to tune in to the podcast online or on Spotify for exclusive episodes. Your presence and support truly make a difference, and it means so much to me. I value your feedback. It enriches our little community and makes it a fun place to be. Share your thoughts in the YouTube comment section or hop over to Spotify for our Q&A and polls. Whether you're following on YouTube, Spotify, or Instagram at A.Rocket.Review, I'm eager to hear your thoughts. Until next time, spread positivity, be safe, take care of yourself, and happy movie watching. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.